After we chose to live on our own after getting married, my controlling mother in law started spreading rumors that I took her son away from her. Because of this, we decided to call off our big wedding celebration. I'm Zoe, 25, and I've been engaged to my fiance, Ryan, 27, for about 6 months. We've been together for 4 years and have shared an apartment for the past 3. Our wedding is right around the corner, set for next month, and we're both thrilled about starting this new chapter together. Ryan and I met back in college. We were part of the same study group for an economics class, which led to countless hours of discussion. I remember being captivated by his sharp sense of humor and the way his laugh seemed to fill the room. Our friendship blossomed quickly. Casual coffee meetups after study sessions soon turned into a spark of something deeper. I'll never forget our first date. A simple night at a cozy pizza place where we ended up chatting late into the night, completely losing track of time. Ryan grew up in a close-knit family that has deep roots in our town. His parents, David and Karen, run a charming family bakery named Sweet Delights, which has been a staple for 3 generations. The bakery's pastries are loved throughout the town, and its warm atmosphere makes it a community favorite. From a young age, Ryan was helping out at the bakery, either kneading dough with his dad or learning decorating tricks from his mom. He often tells stories of those early mornings and how it shaped his appreciation for family traditions. His parents live in an old, elegant Victorian house with a wraparound porch and a spacious backyard that's always bustling in the summer with family gatherings. Ryan is the middle child. His older sister Megan is married and has an adorable 2-year-old daughter. His younger brother Martin is currently in college studying business with plans to join and one day take over the family bakery. When Ryan and I started dating, his family welcomed me with open arms. Karen, his mom, has a natural warmth to her and would invite me over for family dinners, teaching me a few of her cherished family recipes. I loved spending holidays with them, especially since I come from a smaller family. It's just me and my parents who live a few hours away. My first Thanksgiving with Ryan's family was unforgettable. Karen prepared an enormous feast that could have easily served twice as many people as we had. The lively, bustling energy of his family was something I grew to cherish deeply. Everyone pitched in for that Thanksgiving feast. Megan whipped up her signature green bean casserole, Martin was on mashed potato duty, and Ryan and I took on the challenge of making the pumpkin pies. The kitchen was a whirlwind of clanging dishes, laughter, and the occasional mishap, with cousins, aunts, and uncles packed into every corner. Despite the chaos, there was so much warmth and joy in the air. Watching everyone together, I felt so grateful that Ryan grew up in such a welcoming and tight-knit family. But things began to shift after our engagement announcement. Ryan proposed on our 3-year anniversary, taking me back to that same pizza place from our first date. This time, he had coordinated with the owner, a family friend, to write, "Will you marry me?" and pepperoni on our pizza. It was adorably cheesy in every sense, but it felt so right for us. Excited to share our happiness, we broke the news to our families. My parents were thrilled, immediately showering us with congratulations and support. Ryan's family seemed delighted too. At first, Karen hugged me warmly, and David popped open a bottle of champagne to mark the occasion. But as the celebration continued, I began to notice a subtle change. Karen kept mentioning how excited she was to have me officially in the family, and how wonderful it would be for us to be around all the time. The real meaning of her words became clear a few days later. Over dinner with Ryan's parents, Karen casually mentioned redecorating Ryan's old room for us. Ryan and I exchanged a surprised look, realizing that they assumed we'd be moving in with them after the wedding. This was entirely unexpected. We had never talked about it with them because we'd always planned to continue living in our apartment. When we explained our intention to stay in our own place, Karen's face fell. She was visibly disappointed, struggling to understand why we wouldn't want to live with them, especially when it would be financially easier and, in her words, keep the family close. At first, her remarks were just gentle nudges, comments about how wonderful it would be to have us under the same roof or how lonely the house felt now that her kids had moved out. She'd hint at the benefits of saving on rent or how convenient it would be for future family gatherings. But as the wedding date approached, these subtle hints turned into steady pressure. Karen became more insistent, excitedly telling us about all the updates she was making to Ryan's old room, new curtains, fresh bedding, and even a cozy reading nook she thought we'd enjoy. She kept talking about how wonderful it would be to have breakfast together every morning and family dinners each night. We gently reminded her that we already had a place of our own, but she just waved it off, saying, Once you see how lovely it is, you'll want to stay. The tension reached a boiling point last week during a family dinner at Ryan's parents' house. It was meant to be a casual evening to go over some final wedding plans. Megan, her husband, and their little girl were there, and Martin had come home from college for the weekend. The atmosphere was lively, with everyone catching up and sharing laughs, especially over Martin's latest college stories. But then, Karen brought up the topic again, asking when we planned to move our things into the family home. This time, we stood our ground and firmly told her we weren't moving in. Her face fell, and a heavy silence filled the room as everyone looked our way. David gently tried to steer the conversation back, but Karen launched into a long speech about family togetherness and accused us of turning our backs on them. She told us that family was everything and that by choosing to live apart, we were breaking that bond. She pointed out that Megan and her husband had lived there, saying it had always been her vision that all her children would eventually come back to the family home. She even went so far as to suggest that if we truly cared about them, living with them would be the obvious choice. Ryan tried to explain that we absolutely loved and valued his family, but also cherished our independence and privacy. He talked about the life we had created in our apartment, the little routines, our shared responsibilities, and how much we enjoyed our own space. He assured them that we would always be close and involved in family gatherings and traditions, but that starting our married life in our own home was essential to us. Karen then turned her frustration towards me, accusing me of driving a wedge between Ryan and his family. She implied that I was selfish and didn't appreciate the value of family togetherness, suggesting that I was somehow keeping Ryan away from them. Her words were like a punch to the gut. I'd always tried my best to be warm, respectful, and considerate around them. I never once pressured Ryan into making the decision to live separately. It was something we both wanted. Dinner ended on a sour note, with Karen avoiding eye contact and barely speaking to us for the rest of the evening. As we were getting ready to leave, David pulled Ryan aside for a private word. I couldn't hear everything, but the gist was clear. They were disappointed, and he urged Ryan to reevaluate his priorities. Ryan was visibly shaken, and the drive home was filled with an uncomfortable silence as we both processed the evening's events. Since that night, we've received daily calls and texts from family members urging us to reconsider. Megan, who still lives at home with her husband and their little girl, called to share her thoughts on how wonderful it was to have family support nearby. She talked about how convenient it was to have her parents help with the baby and mentioned the financial relief of not having to pay rent. She felt we were making a huge mistake by choosing to live apart. Even Martin, away at college, sent us a long message saying he couldn't believe we were upsetting Karen so much. Apparently, she had called him in tears, expressing how she felt like she was losing her son. Martin pleaded with us to reconsider, explaining that he planned to move back home after graduation and that it would mean so much for everyone if we were all together. This has been incredibly hard on Ryan. He deeply loves his family and hates feeling like he's letting them down, especially his mom. They've always had a close bond. Growing up, Karen was his go-to for advice and comfort. Having her this upset with him is weighing heavily on him, and I can see how torn he is. As for me, I feel a knot of guilt and stress tightening every day, wondering if I'm unintentionally the source of this family discord. But at the same time, I can't help but feel it's unfair for them to expect us to sacrifice our independence to meet their expectations. I think about all the dreams Ryan and I have discussed, our plans to one day own our own home, maybe even adopt a dog. Starting our marriage on our own terms feels important, yet here we are, caught in a whirlwind of emotions and expectation. Our future plans never included living with Ryan's parents. With the wedding just a few weeks away, this ongoing conflict has cast a heavy shadow over what should be a joyful time. Now, Ryan's parents are even threatening not to attend the ceremony unless we agree to move in with them after the wedding. They've said that if we go through with our decision to live separately, it shows we don't value family and that they won't support our marriage. We're both feeling overwhelmed, unsure of how to handle this without completely alienating his family. Ryan has tried having a heart-to-heart with his dad, hoping to find some understanding. But David insists that he needs to support Karen, who's supposedly devastated by our choice. I don't want to be the reason Ryan's relationship with his family suffers, but I also feel it's important to start our marriage on our terms, not theirs. Though we're both committed to living independently, the continuous guilt trips and emotional pressure are taking a toll. Ryan has been struggling to sleep, and the stress is wearing on both of us. We briefly considered postponing the wedding to allow tempers to cool, but with non-refundable deposits paid and invitations already sent, delaying feels like an unreasonable compromise. Besides, It seems unfair to put our lives on hold over this disagreement. I'm genuinely torn. Should we stand firm in our choice and risk damaging our relationship with his family? Or should we compromise our independence just to keep the peace? The weight of this decision is becoming almost unbearable, and any advice would mean a lot right now. Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since I last shared an update, and unfortunately, the situation has only escalated. Ryan and I decided to stick to our plan and not give in to his family's demands to move in after the wedding. We hoped that by remaining respectful but steadfast, they would eventually come to accept our choice, but tensions have only intensified. We had misjudged the situation. Last weekend, we hosted a small engagement celebration with close friends, hoping it might also serve as a bridge to reconnect with Ryan's family. We'd invited them all, hoping that spending time together might ease the tension. We spent days preparing, cleaning the entire apartment, and cooking an array of dishes that we knew they loved. I even made Karen's signature apple pie, hoping it would be a gesture of goodwill. As the party began, we found ourselves glancing at the door, waiting to see Ryan's family arrive. But as the hours ticked by, it became painfully clear that they weren't coming. Later, we learned that Karen had planned a family dinner at the same time as our event, effectively making Ryan's siblings and extended family choose between us and them. This really devastated Ryan. All week, he'd been reaching out, leaving messages and sending texts, but the replies were brief and cold, if he got any response at all. Realizing that his family would go as far as boycotting our engagement party and pressuring others to do the same felt like a sharp betrayal. I'll never forget the moment Ryan finally understood they weren't coming. He was by the window, checking the street for any sign of his family. When our last guest arrived and they were still nowhere to be seen, I could see the hope drain from his face. He tried to keep up a brave front for our friends, but I knew the rejection cut deeply. The next day, Ryan received a call from his aunt, Karen's sister, who shared some disturbing news. Karen had been spreading rumors, telling everyone that I was the one controlling Ryan, trying to separate him from his family and forbidding him from contact with them. She claimed that I was envious of his close bond with them and was manipulating him to isolate him. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Ryan and I had always made decisions together, and I'd never discouraged his relationship with his family. It was clear Karen was framing me as the villain, hoping that if everyone turned against me, Ryan might feel pressured to break things off and come back to them. Hearing this left Ryan furious in a way I'd never seen before. Determined to confront the lies head-on, he called his parents' house. When Karen answered, he finally let his anger show, directly confronting her about the rumors she was spreading and demanding to know why she felt the need to tear our relationship apart. Karen broke down in tears, accusing Ryan of choosing me over his real family and insisting that he was breaking her heart. She reminded him of all the sacrifices she'd made, working long hours at the bakery to support them, putting her children above everything else, and always being there when they needed her. In her mind, our choice to live separately was a rejection of everything she had done for him. Then, David took the phone and gave Ryan an ultimatum. If he didn't agree to move in with them after the wedding, they would cut ties with him, both emotionally and financially. Though Ryan is financially independent, his parents had generously offered to cover a significant portion of our wedding costs, something we had factored into our budget from the start. Now, with only 3 weeks to go, they were threatening to withdraw that support entirely. The message was clear: comply or lose the funding we'd been counting on. The weight of this hit us hard. With the wedding so close, we suddenly found ourselves scrambling, reviewing our finances, and realizing that without their contribution, we'd either have to drastically reduce our plans or postpone the wedding altogether. Ryan was torn, struggling with the idea of standing by our decision, yet not wanting to sever ties with his family or dismantle our wedding. I suggested we might take out a loan to cover the shortfall, but Ryan wasn't comfortable starting our marriage in debt. We briefly considered asking my parents for additional help, though I knew they were already stretching their budget as far as they could. For a moment, we even discussed giving in to Karen's demands, but we quickly realized that compromising our values this way would create more issues down the road. After many sleepless nights and heartfelt conversations, we finally reached a decision. We chose to cancel the large wedding we had envisioned and instead plan a small, intimate ceremony with only our closest friends and family. It wasn't what we had originally dreamed of, but we understood that beginning our life together on our own terms was worth more than a grand celebration. Making those cancellation calls was painful. Saying goodbye to the beautiful venue we'd reserved, canceling the caterer, and letting go of the band were all difficult, each call a reminder of the dream we were setting aside. Yet, Amidst the disappointment, there was also a sense of freedom. We were reclaiming control, refusing to let manipulation shape the choices that were meant to be ours alone. We sent out messages to our guests, letting them know about the change in our wedding plans. We kept the explanation brief, not wanting to dive into the family drama, but many of our friends picked up on what was happening and have been wonderfully supportive. A few close friends even offered to help make our smaller ceremony special. One volunteered to officiate, another offered to handle the flowers, and yet another offered to bake a wedding cake. Ryan made one final effort to reach out to his family, sending a heartfelt email explaining our decision. He expressed how much he loved them and his hope that they could still be a part of our lives. In his message, he reassured them that choosing to live independently didn't mean distancing ourselves from them, and that we wanted them involved in our future. Despite his honest and heartfelt words, there's been no response so far. For me, it's been a struggle balancing guilt and anger. Logically, I know I'm not responsible for the rift between Ryan and his family, but it's hard not to feel like an outsider, somehow at fault. Part of me wonders if there was something I could have said or done differently to keep things from escalating. But there's also anger. Anger at how manipulative this whole situation has become, particularly Karen's role in creating so much pain. Watching Ryan suffer like this is heartbreaking, and I'm finding it hard to imagine ever mending things with his family, even if they do come around one day. Ryan is trying to stay strong, but I know he's carrying a heavy burden. He started seeing a therapist to help process everything, which I'm hoping will bring him some peace. On one hand, he's sure of our choice and frustrated with his family's behavior. On the other, he's devastated to be at odds with them, especially since they've always been such an important part of his life. Sometimes, I see him looking through old family photos with this distant, sad expression, and it breaks my heart. We're focusing on each other and our future together, but there's a lingering sadness that has settled between us, something we've never had to face before. It's affecting our sleep, and there's a quiet tension in our conversations, a heaviness we can't seem to shake. We're not arguing, but we can both feel the weight of it. Our smaller wedding is just 2 weeks away, and we're both a mix of anxious and hopeful. Part of us wonders if Ryan's family will reach out or if they'll keep their silence, and there's a slight worry that they may try to disrupt things at the last minute. We've discreetly informed a few friends about the situation just in case anyone from his family shows up unexpectedly. It's heartbreaking that we even have to worry about these issues on what's meant to be the happiest day of our lives. Still, we're committed to moving forward, ready to start our married life together, whether or not we have his family's blessing. We know it won't be an easy path, but we're determined to support each other through it all. We hope that in time, they'll see we're happy and thriving on our own and might reconsider their stance. But we're also preparing ourselves for the possibility that this distance could become long-lasting or even permanent. I never thought wedding planning would turn out like this. Instead of joyfully picking flowers and sampling cakes, we're planning for potential family drama and grappling with the painful reality that certain relationships might never be the same. Yet, despite everything, Ryan and I have grown even closer. Facing this challenge together has strengthened our bond, and I know that no matter what, we'll get through it side by side. Update 2, it's been about a month since my last update, and so much has happened. We held our small, intimate wedding 2 weeks ago, and while it wasn't the grand celebration we initially envisioned, it turned out to be a deeply meaningful day. In the days leading up to the ceremony, we prepared ourselves for any possible surprises from Ryan's family. We had sleepless nights, worrying about Karen unexpectedly showing up to cause a scene or some last-minute attempt to disrupt the day legally. The stress was taking its toll on us. Ryan was losing weight, and I had developed stress-induced hives. Then, 2 days before the wedding, we got a message from Ryan's sister, Megan. She said that she and her husband wanted to attend the ceremony and that she was truly sorry for how things had spiraled. We cautiously accepted, letting her know she was welcome, but we were also clear that if this was somehow orchestrated by Karen, we wouldn't hesitate to ask them to leave. On the wedding day, Megan and her husband arrived. There was an initial awkwardness, but they seemed genuinely happy to be there. Ryan was visibly moved to see his sister, and they shared a private conversation before the ceremony. Megan explained that she had come to recognize how manipulative their mother's behavior had been and didn't agree with the way Ryan was being treated. Megan confided that their younger brother, Martin, felt the same way she did, but was too intimidated to openly disagree with their parents. She shared some unsettling details about the atmosphere at home, explaining that Karen had become increasingly unstable, swinging between episodes of tears and bursts of anger. Karen had even gone as far as calling Ryan's old friends, urging them not to attend the wedding, and had attempted to contact my workplace to convince my boss that I was unfit for my job. Thankfully, my boss saw through her claims and dismissed them. Ryan's parents and Martin did not attend the wedding. We later learned that Karen had forbidden Martin from going and had thrown a tantrum when she realized Megan intended to attend. Despite the sting of their absence, we tried to stay focused on the love surrounding us that day. The ceremony was held in a charming little park near our apartment, with our closest friends stepping in to help set up chairs, take photos, and make the day special. It was intimate and heartfelt, allowing us to truly feel the support of those present. Ryan was visibly emotional during his vows. I could see a mix of emotions in his eyes, some sadness perhaps, but a deep conviction as well, a reassurance that our decision was right. Afterward, we celebrated at our favorite neighborhood restaurant. The owner, aware of our situation, had closed the place just for us and went out of his way to decorate it beautifully. Though it wasn't the large reception we had initially envisioned, it felt perfect in its simplicity. We danced, laughed, and cherished the presence of people who genuinely cared for us. Following the wedding, we took a brief but refreshing honeymoon. The time away allowed us to step back from the drama and focus on ourselves, planning our future and talking through how we wanted our lives together to look. We discussed ways to build our own family traditions, create a strong support system, and carefully manage future interactions with Ryan's family. Upon our return, however, we discovered that Karen hadn't stopped her campaign against us. She had taken to social media, posting about how Ryan had abandoned the family and claiming that I had stolen him away. Karen went so far as to post old family photos, captioning them with remarks about how things were happier before I came into the picture. This stirred concern among some extended family and friends who began reaching out to Ryan, worried by what they were hearing. In response, Ryan decided it was time to share our side of the story openly. He wrote a clear, detailed post explaining our choice to live independently and the pressure his parents had put on us to move in with them. He explained how they'd ultimately decided to cut us off when we didn't comply with their wishes. In his post, Ryan was both respectful and firm, expressing love for his family, but also making it clear that their actions had been hurtful and overbearing. The reaction was overwhelming. Many extended family members and family friends reached out, expressing their support and sharing similar experiences of Karen trying to control or influence their lives. It was eye-opening for Ryan, revealing that our struggles weren't unique, but rather part of a long-standing pattern. A few days after the post, Megan called to tell us that Karen was outraged and was even considering legal action for defamation. We weren't too concerned, as everything Ryan shared was the truth, but the idea of further conflict was stressful. On a brighter note, Megan mentioned that Martin had read Ryan's post and was beginning to understand our perspective. Although he's still living at home while finishing college and therefore in a difficult spot, he sent Ryan a supportive message, which meant a lot to him. As for Ryan's dad, David, we haven't heard from him directly. Megan mentioned that he's been staying quiet and she suspects he may be realizing just how unreasonable Karen's behavior has become. Still, he hasn't made any moves to reach out or mend the situation. Ryan is gradually feeling more at peace. He's still saddened by the rift with his parents, especially his mom, but he's also resolved in our decision and feels more confident that it was the right choice. Therapy has continued to help him navigate these complex feelings, giving him the support he needs as we focus on building our life together. Now we're directing our energy towards settling into our married life and looking forward to the future we've planned. We've started discussing the possibility of moving to a new city to get a fresh start, away from all the drama. We haven't made any concrete decisions yet, but the idea of starting our life together somewhere new, where we won't constantly worry about running into Ryan's parents or dealing with the fallout, is becoming more appealing. For now, we're focusing on taking things one day at a time. We're thankful for the incredible support we've received from friends and a few family members, and we're committed to building our life together on the foundation of respect and independence. It's not how we imagined beginning our married life, but we're facing it as a team, and that's what truly matters. Update 3. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and some unexpected events have taken place. Not long after my last post, David, Ryan's father, came by our apartment. He looked worn out but resolute, admitting he'd finally confronted Karen about her behavior. He told us he had been staying with a friend for the past week following a major argument with her. David expressed regret for not stepping in sooner and acknowledged that he had allowed Karen's controlling behavior to go unchecked for too long. He admitted that, while he'd always known it was wrong, he found it easier to keep the peace by going along with her demands rather than confronting her. Ryan was deeply moved during their talk, torn between his hurt over David's prior silence and appreciation for his father's newfound willingness to take a stand. David also shared that Karen's actions had only been escalating. She had been reaching out to guests who attended our wedding, accusing them of betraying the family, and had shown up at Megan's home, creating a scene when Megan refused to cut ties with us. David explained that this incident was the final straw for him. He told us he was considering separating from Karen if she refused to seek professional help. David asked for forgiveness and expressed a desire to rebuild his relationship with us, though he understood if we needed time to heal. Ryan felt cautiously optimistic about reconnecting with his father, but we both agreed to take things slowly. We made it clear to David that while we appreciated his apology, we wouldn't consider mending things with Karen unless she acknowledged her actions and sought help. Then, about a week after David's visit, we received a call from Martin. Martin called to say that things at home had become impossible. Karen's behavior had become so unpredictable and intense that he no longer felt safe or comfortable there. He asked if he could stay with us while he figured out his next steps, and we didn't hesitate to say yes. It was a relief to have him here and be able to support him as he dealt with everything. Having Martin around has brought a surprising sense of comfort. He's been sharing more about the toxic atmosphere he grew up in and how Karen's need to control every aspect of his life has affected him. For Ryan, it's been a healing experience to bond with his brother and realize he isn't alone in how he feels about their family dynamic. As for Karen, we haven't heard from her directly. Megan let us know that Karen remains angry and unwilling to take responsibility for what's happened. David, on the other hand, has moved forward with a trial separation and has encouraged Karen to consider therapy. So far, though, she's refused. This entire experience has been a whirlwind of emotions, but through it all, Ryan and I feel closer than ever. Setting boundaries and making tough decisions together has only strengthened our relationship. We've decided to hold off on our plans to relocate to a new city. With Martin staying here and some family members beginning to come around, it feels important to stay close for now.